When Viktor Frankl entered Auschwitz, he was carrying something strange in his coat pocket. Not a goodbye letter, not a family photo, but a fully written book about the meaning of life.
Logotherapy was already developed when I came to Auschwitz, but certainly the 4 concentration camps in which I had to spend 3 years were in a way a testing ground.
Frankl had already uncovered the path to meaning long before the Nazis took him captive. And I won't retell his story for you. There are countless videos about this on YouTube. Instead, I will share what Viktor Frankl actually discovered, his methods for finding meaning and his answer to the question of why. Because
if there is a meaning to fulfill, if he's aware, if he becomes cognizant of such a meaning, then he's ready to suffer, he's ready to offer sacrifices, he's ready to undergo tension, stress, and so forth, without any harm being done to his health.
in his book The Doctor and the Soul, Frankl writes, "Man is not the one who poses the question, what is the meaning of life, but he who is asked the question, for it is life itself that poses it to him." That is a key aspect of his perspective, and Frankl consistently draws attention to it. Look.
A meaning in his life, or for that matter, in each single life situation confronting him.
He talks about the meaning of every life situation because each new situation brings new circumstances, and new circumstances inevitably prompt us to ask a new question. What should I do with it, and why?
The desire, the impulse to find, to discover in life, or better to say in each life situation, concrete life situation confronting someone, the desire to find a meaning therein and to go on to fulfill it.
In other words, human existence from Frankl's point of view is a kind of ongoing dialogue with life, and life is constantly asking us about meaning. So
the wish to find and to fulfill meaning is the basic motivation in human beings.
The key idea is clear now. Let's consider it with an example. Dr. Frankl recounts how one day a colleague, an old general practitioner, came to him for advice, suffering from severe depression after the death of his wife. He could prescribe himself any medication, but he could not come to terms with what had happened. And here is what Frankl did.
I didn't tell him anything, but I just asked him a question. If you had died first, and your wife would have had to survive. Thereupon he said, oh, how this would have been terrible, how she had suffered. Thereupon I retorted, well, this suffering, doctor, your wife has been spared this suffering, and it was you who could spare her this suffering. But now, as it were, you have to pay for it. You are billed for it. By the fact that now you have to mourn, you have to suffer, you have to survive her. This man looked me up, and then he stood up, gave me his hand, and silently left my office.
This man was not searching for meaning in life. He was tormented by a specific situation, a sense of emptiness left where his beloved wife had recently been. Here, Frankl rises to a higher position, not to offer advice, but to pose a question, as if speaking on behalf of life itself. What is all this suffering for? How can this situation be meaningful? And that helped.
Instead of reducing his pain, I tried to make him able to endure his pain.
At this point, it is reasonable to ask, if everything is determined by our life circumstances, does that mean there is no freedom of will, the search for meaning? Are we simply reacting to the situation? But Frankl says no.
That is the freedom to take a stand to whatever conditions might confront us. How we react to the unchangeable conditions is up to ourselves.
It seems like a banal thought, doesn't it? But when these words are spoken by someone who has survived Auschwitz and Dachau, they take on a special significance. You believe them. In general, no matter how dire the circumstances.
Meaning can be found under each and every condition in life, even under the worst conceivable conditions.
But how? How exactly can one find this meaning? In his book Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl shares another case from his practice. A woman came to his clinic whose one son had died and the other has been disabled. She had lost all sense of meaning and came dangerously close to ending everything for herself and her son. But he stopped her. An utterly desperate situation, isn't it? And not a single idea what to say to this woman or how to say it to help her rediscover meaning. After all, meaning is the most important thing because
Despair is suffering without meaning.
Dr. Frankl, of course, found a way. But before I tell you how this story ended, here is the essence of logotherapy in a nutshell. 3 concrete ways to find meaning.
A meaningful life has 3 main chances to become meaningful: by doing a deed or creating a work. Second, by experiencing something or someone. Something refers to nature, culture, and someone to another human being whom we are loving. So, life can become meaningful through work and through love. But if need be, if you are confronted with or facing a situation which is unalterable, a situation that has caused you suffering, even then you may, so to speak, still squeeze out from such a situation a potential meaning to fulfill by the attitude that you are adopting in such a situation.
So when you are facing a crisis in your life and don't know what to do in a particular situation or what it means is, ask yourself, what truly important thing can I do or accomplish in this situation? Could experiencing something, like simply watching the sunset or connecting with a particular person, give me a sense of peace and meaning? And if the first 2 questions don't help and your circumstances are desperate, try to change your attitude toward the situation so you can turn your tragedy into triumph.
But at the moment they can see a meaning in their suffering, they can turn their tragedies into a personal triumph.
Alright, so how can these 3 pieces of advice help a woman in despair? Frankl proceeded as follows. He asked another woman in the psychotherapy group to imagine herself as an 80-year-old on her deathbed and to speak her thoughts aloud. He asked her to imagine that she had everything in life: money, men, entertainment, but no children. And this is what the woman said at the end of her monologue.
I cannot see what all that was for. Actually, I must say, my life was a failure.
After that, Frankl asked the woman, who had lost one son and was living with another disabled son, to imagine herself on her deathbed. Her words were recorded on tape.
Though he is crippled and helpless, he is after all my boy, and so I have made a fuller life possible for him. I have made a better human being out of my son.
Frankl writes that at this moment there was an outburst of tears and crying. She continued.
As for myself, I can look back peacefully on my life, for I can say my life is full of meaning, and I have tried hard to fulfill it. I have done my best. I have done the best for my son. My life was no failure.
In my view, in this example, all 3 of Frankl's recommendations worked simultaneously. Just as the sound of 3 notes played together creates a chord. Looking at her life from the perspective of her final moments, the woman saw that there was a specific person for whom it was worth living, that her actions for this person were deeply meaningful, and that all her suffering has not been in vain. Amid her tragedy, she managed to hear the call of life. As Dr. Frankl would say,
basically, any human being is concerned with something out there in the world, is concerned with someone out there in the world, a work to do, a job to complete, a task, a meaning, a mission in life waiting for him exclusively.
in most cases from Frankl's practice, even in the concentration camp, He thought to help people find meaning in one life situation or another. More specifically, he tried to guide a person toward answering the question, what do I live for? And encourage them to look to the future. But what about the meaning of life as a whole? How did he answer that question?
But what I think is rather that what we have to accept is the incapacity of our humanness, the incapacity to recognize the ultimate meaning in intellectual or merely rational terms.
Simply put,
It is easier to find meaning in life if you are a religious person.
his logic is quite clear. To find meaning in specific life circumstances, you need to rise above those circumstances and ask yourself what you can do and for whom. But to find the meaning of life as a whole, you need to rise above life itself, to go beyond its boundaries. And this is impossible without religion. Frankl uses the following metaphor. When a monkey is tested with the polio serum and receives injection after injection, it suffers but cannot understand the meaning of this suffering because it exists on a different level of understanding. Perhaps human suffering, from the point of view of an even higher level, also serves some greater purpose and it is not meaningless. Yet Frankl himself at the age of 64 was able to define the meaning of his life without the help of God. I have seen the meaning of my life in helping others to see in their lives a meaning. And if you have watched this video to the end, it means that Frankl's ideas continue to live on and influence people.